All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I have the absolute pleasure, and I'm totally fanboying right now, but I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with the one, the only Shelley Segal. You guys have definitely heard of her because you're atheists and have probably watched the Atheist Experience. And you know that little jingle that they have that opens the show up? Well, that's Shelley. And that song is called Saved, by the way. And also, I just listened to another one of her tracks. I've listened to a bunch, but I hadn't heard of Sidelined, and I thought it was new, like an idiot. But apparently, it's from 2015, and it's called Sidelined, and it's about body image. And I think it's a very good song, and it has a very powerful message. So anyway, Shelley, what I do here is I talk to people about their deconversions, how they figured out that religion was nonsense and the journey that took them on into becoming the atheist/skeptic kind of people that they are today. So why don't you kind of take us back to when you were once kind of a believer, if you even ever were, but that's okay if you weren't, because we can talk about all kinds of stuff, especially music, and take us on that journey.
Okay, thank you so much. Firstly, I just want to say, Neil, thank you so much for having me. This is super cool, and thank you for giving me a chance to share my story and my music with people. And hi, everyone, to be here finally. You've got guests booked up for months, so I was really excited to get in and get to have a chat.
Sorry, guys, it'll be kind of choppy from time to time.
That trend.
Maybe. No, you're okay. You're okay. You're just kind of roboting a little bit in and out. So we'll there you go. There you go. You're back with us. Randolph thinks he broke your video.
Okay. Sorry about it.
All right. If you look up to the right, you'll be able to see comments, live comments, and private comments or whatever. And if you click on the live comments, you'll be able to see what people are popping into the chat.
Oh, hi, everyone.
They're all saying, hi, Shelley.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Cripple Sturdy. If it wasn't your fault, Angie. Hi, everyone. Okay, cool. This is awesome. And Biddy, is Biddy here? Hi, Biddy. Okay, so if I think back, every year, that time of my life, I remember, basically I was brought up in a traditional Jewish family and Jewish community where Judaism. Oh, really? High fives.
Yeah. Last name Bernstein, so there you go.
Bernstein, yeah. Well, the Segals thing.
Yeah.
And so my family were just by secular people's from a secular perspective, they were quite religious. But maybe from an Orthodox Jewish perspective, they would have been a reform level of a traditional. But it was a big part of our life, and I grew up in that. We went to synagogue every week. I went to a Jewish day school where I learned Hebrew, and we studied the Tanakh, and I studied, everything through a Jewish lens and a Jewish perspective. And I believed in the Old Testament as the account of creation. That was true. I believed in it as a historical account. And I also went to a Jewish youth group on the weekends, a Zionist, socialist youth group. It was very big part. I went to the summer camps, and I actually eventually went on to lead other kids, as a counselor on those summer camps.
Yeah, me too.
So it's just no way.
Yeah, I was a counselor in daycare, not so much at the overnight camp, but I did go to the overnight camp.
Yeah. Well, it's it's very involved, and it was a very big part of my identity. Feeling like I was Jewish, and that very important to me, my family, and it sort of colored everything in our lives. And I really believed in a God. I spoke to him every night. Every night I would say my prayers. I would say the Shema, and I
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
make up little songs. I would make up my own little musical prayers, and I would sing to God. And in my mind, He was this person, and so I would say I was very devout. And there was a time when I was like 15, 16, and I was learning more about the Bible, the Old Testament, and the laws, that I wanted to become more religious. I wanted to become kosher. I wanted to become more strict
Wow.
because, and I would say to my parents, I said, these are the commandments. This is what we've been told to do. How come we're not doing them? And I couldn't understand why they wouldn't want us to be doing it more fully. So, I was
Right.
a very serious kid, I guess.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I believed it, so I said, well, if this is it, then why aren't we doing it? So I guess in a way that probably caused me a bit of what's the word, like dissonance. Like, if this is the way, then why are we not doing it?
Right.
And little things that made me question. I remember somebody in my family was considering splitting up with their long-term partner because they weren't religious enough. And I remember thinking, this is supposed to be something that brings us together. How could it be something that tears people apart? And then I fell in love with someone that wasn't Jewish, and as a young teenager, and as a late teenager, I guess I was probably 17, and in my mind, this was something beautiful, and the God that I believed in, the God that I hung out with and talked to every day, He was happy for me. He was like, this is great, because He's the person, because He's me, basically, representing my worldview. And so when I had this pressure from my family telling me that I needed to break up with him because he wasn't Jewish, I was just like shocked. I was really hurt, and I was devastated. That was actually one of the hardest times, especially between me and my family, because I understand. I don't agree with that tribalism, but in some ways I can understand where it stems from, particularly from my grandmother, whose entire family, extended family, was murdered in the Holocaust in Holland. So when she says to me things like, "Oh, they won't understand us, they'll never accept us," I don't like that tribalism, but it's harder for me to argue against, with her after having lived that experience. So
Sure.
I do understand, or I can empathize at least, if not agree with. And that really made me question things, and the way that the things that people said, that when they spoke about God and what God wants, that's not my God. You're talking about someone else. You know what I mean? Like the things that you're saying He wants and for us, and that He believes or that He commands, like that's actually degrading and insulting to my God that I talk to. He's not that cruel. He's not that petty. He's not that, And then I guess the problem of suffering was a really big one as well. The more I learned about the rest of the world, and living in Australia in a pretty insular community, I was very lucky. I got to travel as a younger person with
Cool.
my dad for work, and you see different places, and you start to question, like, how can it be like this? And then I guess the other thing that really made me question was in high school I took biology because I love animals. I was like, I love dolphins. I love orcas. I love us. In fact, here's Marine Science Afloat. Everybody can support Marine Science Afloat. They're a great charity in Seattle, off Tacoma, Seattle, in Washington State, and they take young school kids out on the sound. They teach them about science. They teach them about preservation of our water habitat.
Very cool.
So if anyone's interested, they can support Marine Science Float.
Are you in Seattle right now, or?
I'm not in Seattle. I'm in Los Angeles. It's just uncharacteristically cold and rainy.
Oh boy,
Yeah,
that's
it's
kind of odd. We've got nothing but sun and warmth here in Canada, which is kind of,
beautiful.
yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being so long, but I guess that is it's a long story.
Oh no, carry
Okay.
on.
So I took biology because I love animals, and then I ended up falling in love with the subject, and the deeper parts of it, and
Sure.
and the scientific side of it, I loved, and I had a really inspiring teacher who really was passionate about the subject, and that was the first time that I learned about evolution.
Ooh.
And the reason so at the school that I went to, was a Jewish school, we didn't learn about evolution in the earlier years.
Right.
But because they still want us to be competitive with the state, when we do get into the higher year levels, when you do compete against the other schools, if you're doing like biology as an elective, then they would give you the proper curriculum because you have to compete. Unless you did biology as an elective, you didn't learn about evolution. But so I learned about it, whereas my brother didn't, and it just like totally blew my mind. And it was like this. That was the first time I questioned, oh, maybe the biblical account of creation is not the historically accurate one. Maybe this isn't what happened. And for my whole life, I sort of, in a way, felt separate from the earth. In my mind, it was like God came and put us in the garden, and you're like, you're created. And then I had this view that was different. That was like, no, actually, you're of the planet. You're related to every single life form on it, and it was just so beautiful, and it made sense to me, and it was like it just had so much reach, and it sparked an interest for me in science, in learning, in understanding, and also in questioning. And so I guess the next couple of years was like breaking down a lot of the beliefs that I'd held for most of my life.
Some of the dominoes started to fall, I guess, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I went through something very similar. I remember being young and not being, I remember believing, but I wasn't, there was always that doubt in my mind for me.
Oh, wow.
So, but I used to, like you, I would talk to God all the time and like, ask for favors, or, hey, make sure my buddy gets better because he's got a broken leg or whatever, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. And, not usually I tried to not be selfish except when I wanted that gigantic Lego set for Hanukkah. So, which I never got. So, but that's all right. I ended up getting a lot of cash and put together and got it myself anyways. But that's all right. So maybe he did answer my prayer then. Just I had to do it. But yeah, I get it. And I did the whole Hebrew school thing where they teach you all the biblical stories, and my teacher hated me because I was like, wait a minute, there's no such thing as giants. How the hell could Goliath be a giant? Like, what do you mean? Was he like over 6 feet or something? Because I know a lot of people back then were quite short, but maybe that's what they mean. And yeah. And of course, I got sent to the hallway quite often because I was having questions or asking questions that they couldn't answer. Right. So
that's so cool that you naturally had that questioning part of you, that skeptic part of you. See, for me, I'm very trusting, and I just really accepted that because every adult in my life had that narrative and shared that narrative. I had no reason to challenge it, I guess, until I did when it came up against something. But I'm naturally, I think, quite a gullible person.
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. I was too. I believed a lot of nonsense back in the day too, right?
But that's why this whole that whole process, that deconversion, was so important, because it gave me a tool to understand that about myself and say, okay, I have that capacity to be deluded. I have that capacity to trust things at face value. How do I combat that, and how do I find out what's the difference? What is a good answer and what is a good explanation? How do I discern that, and how do I sort of, build a fort to protect myself from bad ideas because I am so open to them. So that was such a big part of it that I still carry with me.
I used to build a couch fort. I take all the cushions. and hide in there with like a box of cereal that I wasn't supposed to have. My mom would catch me. Hey, put the Captain Crunch back in the closet. Oh, wow. So would you say that after you started with the biology stuff and the cracks started forming in your belief system, how long do you figure it took you to finally get like sort of shed all of that? And maybe did you ever look into anything else? Like myself, and I went into like the paganism route. I'd started looking into all that kind of thing. Did you ever go anything like that? Or
it's funny. I just started getting into Charmed now, the show, and I was like, thank God I didn't have this when I was younger. I'm sure I would have been convinced myself that I was. Yeah. No, actually, I just skipped straight from it to it just felt impossible to believe anything else, because I realized how crazy what I'd accepted as truth was, and it made it hard for me to jump to something else. It was just questioning, like you said, the cracks, and then understanding that I had a religious worldview, and that, because I remember I was an atheist. Like I probably started this journey at like 16 of questioning for the first time, and then calling myself an atheist by 20. So it would have taken about 4 years.
Oh, wow. So you went right to the atheism thing fairly early, I guess.
I did, but it was funny because I called myself an atheist. I stopped believing in that Jewish God, and it didn't have anything to replace it. But I remember I still believed in ghosts and spirits, right, and souls and heaven and that kind of stuff. We didn't have hell. I don't know if you were in the same position. I think most Jews don't have hell. I think there are some sects that.
No, we don't. Yeah. It's, what do they call it? Sheol, I think, is where you exist but without God. It's like some void somewhere.
You exist but what, sorry?
You exist but without God. It's called Sheol or something like that, I think.
Oh.
And
I was told, yeah. Sorry.
And you exist but you don't get to be with God, which is ultimately what we wanted. It was live our afterlife with God, right? So.
Okay. Yeah, see, I think it's just not, we don't have hell in the same way that Christians do, which I always, that's tough. I feel for anyone that was.
For them.
Yeah, seriously, that's a lot of.
An eternity of torture for finite crimes. I never got that.
No, I just had to stay with my family. I love my parents so much. I had a very, very, very loving upbringing. For all the things that I criticize them, I was so angry at them when I first found out, that it wasn't true.
I think we all go through that.
How could you teach me this without finding out if it was true first? How could you waste all this space in my brain? And I had to come home and teach them about evolution, and they laughed at me. They were laughing at me like I was crazy, I was.
Somebody now idolizes you.
And I tried to talk to, hey, Robert. I tried to get them out of it. Like I would go around the house. This is how lovely they are that they didn't kill me. So I would open the old Tanakh, and I would read to them from it, because for me, I was now reading it again with fresh eyes, and I just couldn't believe all these things that I'd read the first time and not had any problem with. Like Abraham, he's such a hero. He's our hero. He's our moral leader. He was willing to kill his son. He left Ishmael out in the desert to die. I was like, this guy is a prick. How is he immoral? So I was trying to talk to my parents, and they're like, oh, you're cherry picking. You're just picking the bits. I said, no, I could open any page and find something horrible in here, And so I was doing that. I was trying to read it to them, and they were like, they didn't want to hear it. And it's like, how can you not want to hear this? This is your. I found this one bit in the book that said, like, if your child tries to leave or lead others away from God, then you have to kill them, and you can't let someone else kill them. Like, you have to kill them. So I was walking around my house, like, harassing my dad, reading him this paragraph, and then I'm like, Daddy, this is the Lord your God. You must kill your daughter, Shelley. You must strike her down.
Oh man, that must have drove him nuts.
Oh my God, he was so angry. But I was furious. But no, so you asked me about. Oh yeah, that's right. I was telling you, like, I still believed in ghosts and all that stuff, and I didn't understand that was part of a religious worldview. So then once I read a book that talked about different worldviews, and that sort of gave me the idea of like, okay, a context. Like I have this way of seeing the world, and this is where all my beliefs have come from, and so I can assess them and realize like, oh, these are all part of what I've been taught. And then I was able to sort of assess them individually. And it was funny, interesting. You may have a reflection on this as well. I found that I stopped believing in the stories and everything. Then I stopped believing in God, and then I stopped believing in spirits or an afterlife or souls or anything sort of not naturalistic. And then the last belief that I had, that I would consider part of the Jewish worldview, is that I was Jewish, and that was something very important. So even though I didn't believe anymore, that identity was still very important to me. And I feel like
tradition,
that was
right. It was all about tradition.
Not even so much tradition, just the identity,
Well, there are many secular Jews.
There are, and that's what was interesting to me, that I realized like, wow, this is a core belief of Judaism, that you have this Jewish identity that is passed on. It's a tribal bloodline, I mean, there are rules of, it doesn't necessarily have to be bloodline if you convert, but just that there is this identity and that it matters. And I realized like, wow, this is a core belief of Judaism, and in a way, it's more integral to the tradition than belief in God, because we do see so many secular and atheist Jews that still, I think, hold on to that belief. And I'm not going to say,
I accidentally popped that in there.
Oh, that's okay. I was like, that's nice. He already said that, but I'll take it again.
I started typing something because it's just saying hello to somebody. But when you type and you don't, and it's not highlighted, it pops the last thing you put in there as an automatic thing for some reason. So anyway,
but yeah. How do you feel about that? Because I think it's complicated for people. But that was to me, that was a significant realization. And I wouldn't say that I'm not Jewish, but you know what, I do say that sometimes, like if someone wants to say to me from the community, oh, you're always Jewish, your kids will be Jewish because you're a woman, then I'll pull it out and say, you know what, I'm not Jewish. That's halakha, that's your law, and that law means nothing to me.
Yes.
But then if someone's gonna make some kind of public slur or whatever against Jews, I'll be like, no, that's my family, so I use
it's your history.
Right? I'll identify with it when I choose to, which is how I think identity should be yours to, engage with it in whatever way you like. But that's how I feel about it. What about you?
I'm the same. I'll come to, like, if somebody starts putting down Jewish people or whatever, gets all anti-Semitic and stuff like that, I'll speak up, say, hey, listen, I was once a Jew and I care for these people, so I'm going to step in between you and these people and say, and knock your ass out if I have to. But because I'm a big guy and most people usually turn around and run away, but it's either that or I pop their eyeball out like I used to do as a bouncer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a move I learned.
Which fingers do you use, your thumb or?
They teach you this in Krav Maga, actually, in Israel.
So
they just pop right there, and boop, the eye pops out. You put it in a glass of water. You send them to the hospital and get it put back in. Yeah. Trust me. When they're looking at you with one eye, when they're looking at you with one eye and their foot with the other one, the fight's over.
Oh my God! Yeah, I did not expect to learn that today.
It's a hell of a great maneuver if you can pull it off before they get the better.
Oh my God.
It was either that or get hit. The one guy that came at me had a bat with a hook on the end of it. So it was either get hit with that or, bring an end to the fight right there. So, yeah. The fishing bat where they hit the fish and then they pull them up with this hook on the end of the bat, right? So,
oh my God.
And I can't even remember where I got that thing. I think I found it on the side of the road because I lived in a fishing village at the time. So somebody probably left it there. But he's like, which finger? Behave, Shelley. So how did your family take it when or do they even know? Like, I guess I should ask that.
when did they know?
Like, when did you come out to them as being a non-believer?
Probably, yeah. I went on a trip when I was 20, and it was on that trip when I like I said, I feel like traveling really helped me because I was able to understand like my worldview had a context. These people have come from this context and they believe this, and I've come from this context and that's why I believe this. And so I was seeing all these different worldviews and being able to like critique them or analyze them or assess them, and then that gave me a context to understand that my own worldview, was just as deserving of criticism and analysis, and it helped provide me a context in which to do that. And so it was on that trip when I was 20 that I started to call myself an atheist and identify as an atheist. And to me, it was like the kind thing to do for my God, because any other explanation was just an indictment.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I get that.
And so I came home and I tried to explain it to my parents. And like I said, I was angry and I was probably not as eloquent and articulate as I like to think I am now. And I was angry. I was very angry. And I think they, it was very new for them and they didn't necessarily understand why. I'm sure to them it felt like a personal attack. And I think to them it felt like, a rejection of everything that they taught me and all their values, which is not true. I think I still live by my parents' values. I think that they're humanists and I think that they're good people. And, but at the time, that's how they felt. And they wanted to throw my 21st birthday party at the synagogue. And I was like, I don't want to be in there, and I was starting to
Nobody wants to get struck by lightning.
So I was starting to take issue with things that maybe I'd felt, but not really understood why I'd had those feelings towards them, not being, because I didn't understand sexism or, and we went to an Orthodox synagogue every week. My dad was the president of the synagogue. And at the synagogue, like they have gender segregation, so the women sit upstairs, the men sit downstairs. The women are not allowed to participate in leading the service, so I would watch my father and my brother be called up to the bima to sing, to lead the congregation. And I was not allowed to sing, even though I had arguably the best voice.
Arguably, I would probably say hands down. Maybe the cantor.
I'm saying my dad and my brother are pretty good singers. So like,
are they?
They're pretty good. Yeah. That's how I learned to sing. Actually, like my dad has a klezmer, like a Jewish wedding band, and he does like a mean Hava Nagila. He does all that, like all the klezmer stuff. They do it really good. And so like I grew up. I've been singing with my dad's band since I was 11. I've been performing with them and my brother too. So yeah, they're really good. But yeah, it was very hurtful. And I couldn't really explain earlier, I think, what was my issue, because it's tradition and it's normalized. And you grow up in that kind of environment and it's normalized to you. Like I talk about this in my show sometimes. Like there's a prayer that we used to say every morning as a primary school kid. I don't know if you guys, do you say primary school in Canada?
Yep, elementary school is what we
elementary school. Since elementary school, since 5th grade, every day we said this prayer in the mornings that was a call and response between the boys and the girls. And there was one line that we would say where the boys would say in Hebrew, so I've said this every morning since I was 10 years old, the boys would say, "Dear God, thank you for not making me a woman." And we would say back, "Dear God, thank you for making me what I am." And like you don't really have the words or the understanding to explain what's wrong with that, especially when, different women in the community explain it away in different ways. But so as a young adult at 20, 21, I was starting to find the words to explain and have the deeper understanding of what was wrong with my tradition and the ways that it had hurt and limited me and the ways that I felt it was hurting and limiting so many others. And so that was really hard for my parents to understand, and it was hard for me to control my anger and also hard for me to express correctly. But yeah, it was an interesting time.
Yeah, no doubt. Would you say that because of synagogue that piqued your interest in starting to want to sing?
No, I feel in some ways I feel, I guess, a bit of a loss with the synagogue musically, because if we went to a Reform synagogue instead of instead of an Orthodox synagogue, I think that I may possibly have been a cantor, and I may have engaged more deeply with that music, because it is something that is very precious to me and very beautiful to me, and I do enjoy engaging with it. And there's been a sense of loss for me around that, and actually a sense of quite a deep anger around that. And it's cool for me recently, the last couple of years, I've been able to engage with it again on my own terms, which has been very rewarding and very empowering. I don't know, when I started it, I think I had a gig here in LA a couple of years ago on Yom Kippur. And to me, it was unimaginable, in the past, that I would ever have had a gig on Yom Kippur. But I had a gig at this at Hotel Cafe, this awesome venue in LA, and I thought, what can I do? I'm going to start my gig with the Etz Chaim. And the Etz Chaim is a song that my father sings every week in the synagogue. And it's just this beautiful, haunting melody, a cappella song. And so I started for Yom Kippur, my set in this, folk jazz pop club with this a cappella Hebrew piece. And I loved singing it so much that I actually started incorporating it into my set. And now every time I sing Eve, which is my song about, I guess, women in religion and the way that the Abrahamic traditions talk about women and women's roles. And I talk a lot about, I tell a little story, a little bit of what I've gone through today with you guys. And so now I start that piece with the Etz Chaim, and I found it's so empowering to sing. I feel connected to my dad. I feel connected to my family, and I feel like, fuck you. So I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
Oh yeah, knock yourself
out. Okay,
out.
Cool. Fuck you. This is mine. This is mine, and nobody owns this except me. This is my inheritance, and I'll use it to be blasphemous, and I'll use it to criticize, and I'll use it to, and it's just so beautiful, and I love it, and I want to engage in that more. I did that with my Atheist album. So my first album was called an Atheist album, where I wrote about, these really intense experiences I was having, my change of heart, my change of mind. And on one of the songs, I do that on a song called Afterlife, where I sort of list all the things that are dangerous about having a belief in an afterlife, instead of focusing on this one, oh, hey David, how you doing? But yeah, so I had this David, you distract me. But yeah, so I have this song about listing the dangers that I feel are inherent in the belief in afterlife. And then at the end, I switched to this old Hebrew prayer that was one of my favorite songs, and I do a play on the Hebrew. I'm finally, all my Hebrew lessons paying off. I did this play on the words, and I change it. I sing the Shalom Aleichem, and I change it to say, instead of the angels from God, I say, who is God? Who is God? I am God. Because I think that we're all the creators of our own pictures, our own worldviews, our own universes. We are the narrators. We are the gods. Anyway, so that was the first time I sort of did that. But then at this gig a couple of years ago, was there the first time I started engaging with it in a live sense. And since then, I sing that at every show, and I love it. And I'm thinking of different ways that I'm going to engage with that music more. So that's the long answer to your question. Always long answers. A lot of long answers.
Just so you guys know, Eitz Chaim is actually translated to English is Tree of Life. Just so you guys know. Yeah. From the Hebrew.
It's something really special. So my dad is having his 60th birthday this month, and I'd love to be. He's at home in Australia. I'd love to be there with him. But anyway, for his 60th birthday, he redid his bar mitzvah, and
really?
Yeah, and there's something really special, he asked me to sing with him at the synagogue. And like that was very emotional. Like I couldn't go home. I couldn't do it. Well, actually, I'm glad now with everything craziness that's going on.
Yeah.
But it was very emotional for me. For him to ask that. It's hard for me because I don't go to the synagogue anymore. I can't be in it. I can't be somewhere that tells me I have to sit somewhere different because of like an accident of birth, something that,
for sure.
Nothing to do with it. I find it incredibly degrading. The last time I went, I just had to leave because I was so upset. I can't. And my brother says, "Oh, it's just symbolic. It's just symbolic." It's like it's actually also literally happening. Like it's not. But anyway, so I do find it hard to go to synagogue. So I don't know what I would have done, but it was very emotional for me, for my dad to ask me that, to join him, to sing with him. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I would have done it. Anyway, we sang together over the phone on loudspeaker before he went in. That I had to do. But it's complicated.
Cool. Yeah, my family was more. We were in a Reform synagogue, so the men and women could mix.
Oh, beautiful.
And stuff like that. So they didn't really harp on that one too much. And I remember my sister actually once asking why they allowed that. Because according to tradition, they're supposed to be separate. And when I went to Israel and lived there for 2 years, everywhere you go where there's synagogues, you see that quite often, where the women and even at the wall, where men and women are separate and stuff like that, right? Yeah, I did grade 11 and 12 there at a little place called Kfar Hayarok, which means Green Village. Very kibbutz style thing, right? Where we worked in fields for a few hours, and then we went to school for the rest of the day. It was a great time. I lived there with a bunch of Canadians and Americans, and I found out later on that most of the kids that get sent to this school were bad kids, because I was a little shit disturber when I was a kid. So,
that was just a coincidence.
Yeah. Oh no, I was a little asshole back in the day. Stealing cars and stuff. But I turned a new leaf after being there for a couple of years because we had military training and we had all kinds of shit, right? So it was definitely still probably the best couple of years of my life, because when my parents asked me like, "Hey, you want to go do school in Israel?" and the first thing I'm thinking, no parents for a whole year? Fuck yeah, I'm in.
Except like your commanders.
Yeah. Well, so I went there and it was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like waking up in the desert when you're being really drunk in Jerusalem on the side of the highway and there's a scorpion in your boot.
Oh my God.
That's always fun. We didn't have anything to eat except for these little pomegranates in the morning, and we're like starving and we're like peeling. This is too much work for food.
one seed at a time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know how you were actually supposed to peel these things. There's a way you can cut it and then it just opens up and they all fall out, sort of thing. But I had no idea. Yeah, we didn't. I think that when I was over there, it was probably the first time I'd even eaten pomegranate. So because they don't grow here. Oh, hang on. To the great tree Yggdrasil from no. Tree of Life is different from the Yggdrasil. From the my friend Randolph. The same idea, but it's different. Yggdrasil is the tree that holds all the different areas together, like Midgard, Valhalla, all that shit. So yeah, I got into the old mythologies, and I think that was probably for me, anyways. Realizing that these old world religions were now considered mythologies, I was like, well, you know what? I guess the new world ones will eventually become just like those. It's just taking really long time.
Yeah. So wait, so you said how old were you when
I lived there?
No, into the pagan side of things.
Oh, I would say my 20s, maybe early 20s. And I hung out. I did that. I dated a girl that was a witch, so she kind of taught me. She did tarot readings and all that other nonsense, right? So I did that for a while and got into that stuff. And I remember trying to do spells myself. Like I had this one because we were kind of broke. So I was like, hey, maybe we could do money. I had a ceramic bowl with a silver dollar and the water halfway, and you catch the image with the full moon and you do some ridiculous chant. And of course, the only money I ended up getting was the $75 for the VCR that I put up for sale back in the day. So
Wow.
it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
It worked because I put an ad in the paper. So
it sounds fun. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm glad Charmed was a now thing for me. All right. I would have got into it. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely neat. Like there's attractive elements to it, of course, right? Because they tell you most magic, like Wiccans and stuff like that, most of them are solitary practitioners unless they're involved in a coven or something, right? So
yeah,
it's mostly like that sort of a thing where it's a solitary thing.
And I think that's probably what's the word? Like, that would be an attractive part of it after being part of a community and sort of seeing what can be negative about. Like, there are a lot of positives to it, but there's a lot of negatives to it as well.
Sure.
And trying to be an individual in a community when you disagree with the majority it's really hard. So I can understand wanting to, it being attractive to be able to engage with these sorts of things on your own and on your own terms.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And there was a short period where I was going to be a ghost hunter.
Oh, wow.
I was going to go out with a video camera and try and catch images of ghosts. Never did. I wonder why. So
I didn't get that far.
Yeah, I wanted to be. I was begging family members to give me a nice video camera for a birthday present or something, so I could get out there and start ghost hunting. And they're all like looking at me like I'm from Mars or something. Like, what? But yeah. Anyway, so let's get a little bit. I think into the music. When did you decide you wanted to do that, sort of as on a professional or semi-professional level?
So I guess what's really cool, and I feel really lucky in this way, is that that was never a decision. It just was. You know what I mean?
It just happened.
That just was always what was going to be. Like, I started singing when I was 2. My parents have this like video of me singing Phil Collins' "Groovy Kind of Love" when I was like 2.5. Groovy kind of love, as I sang it. And my dad started teaching me violin when I was 3. Biddy just asked what was my first musical.
I was just going to pop that up there, yeah.
And I learned how to play the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song on the violin. Da, 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 da. It's pretty, like, that was cool.
It's very akin to me doing the Star Wars theme song on the trumpet at the age of 12.
That's cool. But yeah, so I was just, already singing. That was all I ever wanted to do. I was always, I used to do my homework after school at my dad's band rehearsals, and I'd be sitting there doing my maths homework, and then I'd stop what I was doing, get up, sing a song with the band, and go back to work, So I was just like really lucky in that way of like always around it. I knew all the Jewish songs as well. And so my dad and his music partner, Paul, they've been playing music together for like almost 40 years now. Pretty close, 40 years, performing together. And they sound like one voice, when you've been singing that long with someone. It's pretty cool. But they sing at a lot of aged care facilities, particularly like Jewish aged care facilities. So they go and they just give it their time to like sing to people of, the music that they grew up with. And it's quite a beautiful thing. So I used to do that with them. My brother, we used to go and sing at the old folks' homes together.
Aww.
So it's something I've always done, and I've always been around it. And I've always just been like, that's just my focus, my passion. If I had any time in my room alone, I was listening to music and singing along and writing poems. And so, and then when I was 11, that's when I started singing with my dad's band. So like, I like at the shows, not just like at
Right.
rehearsals and stuff.
Right. Sure.
So, you know, my dad just probably thought it was really cute. Like, I wanted to die. I was so embarrassed. But he would, like, you know, just say, oh, it's my daughter. She's 11. She's going to sing one song with us. And first it was just the one song, and then it was 2 songs. And then, you know, as I got older and more of a handle on it, I think by the time I was like 15, I was doing like the whole functions with the band.
Oh, wow, cool.
Which was really cool. Like, you'd do like a whole wedding, you know, like for the whole night. It's like 7-hour sort of gig, you know, where you're doing background. And my dad was like, we'll see, you know. So I've just grown up around working musicians, and I guess I've been technically a working musician since that young age. So it was just like, there was never a moment like, oh, this is what I want to do. It was just like, this is what I do. This is what I love. And so I'm very lucky in that way. I guess like moving that to a career in original music is hard, and it's always like, I think it's, you know, just always finding a way to make a new revenue stream, finding a way to make it work. You know, it's really hard. It's not an easy thing.
I know. Sure.
You know. Yeah, it's a hard slug. But sorry, yeah. Because I'll just keep talking. I'll just keep talking.
It's okay. That's why we're here. But I just make a mention, guys, speaking of earning some money, I do have a link to Shelley's Patreon down below. Okay. So definitely check out our YouTube channel so you can get a feel for her music. It's fucking fabulous. Multiple different styles. And she's got like one of those golden voices that fits everything. It's one of those. And definitely, if you like it, throw a $1 or $2 her way every month.
Thank you.
Every bit helps.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think that comes from like, being a wedding singer, you know, like I started being a wedding singer the same year The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler came out. I was like, oh my God.
Hilarious.
My dad's cool. I'm cool. Like, we're cool. This is a cool thing that we do.
We I used to get up on stage with the bands that played at the weddings or the bar mitzvahs or bat mitzvahs or whatever, right? So I'd get up and sing a couple tunes with them too, which was a lot of fun as a kid.
It was cool. It's so fun. It's fun.
Theo likes the AXP song. It's called Saved, Theo. Just so you know.
Oh, hey. Okay.
You must hate singing that now.
No. I don't. I absolutely do not. Every time I sing it, it means something to me. You know, especially when it means something to the people I'm singing it to. You know, I probably am not gonna sing it on my own. That is gonna be boring because I've sung it so many times. But if I'm at a gig and there are people there and they want to hear it and it means something to them to hear it, like I'll do that every day happily for the rest of my life. Like if I can give you some kind of experience with my music that means something to you, that is what my whole life, that gives me meaning. That gives my whole life meaning, that makes everything I'm doing worthwhile, and I will do that every day for the rest of my life. I have no sympathy for like those artists that are like, oh, I'm not going to play the hit. It's like, no.
You must.
That's why people are here. You have the ability to give them an experience that means something to them. And as long as, if there's a song that means something to someone of mine, I will play it 30 times. If that's what people want. I did do some live streaming for a while, and like people did actually want to hear it 4 times in a row. I'm like, well, that might be a bit boring for everyone else that's here.
Well, I totally dig what you do now. You've got that songwriting thing that you do on the weekend.
Yeah.
I popped in for a few.
Started this thing. Yeah, it's so much fun. So that's something cool. I started doing it every second Saturday. Yeah. So every second Saturday. So what's the next one's the 21st at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we do like a live stream songwriting. Pretty much I'm in this spot. And it's 90 minutes. And we make a brand new song. I talk to everyone, what are you going through, what's been happening, what do you feel like writing about, and then we write a song together in real time. And, you know, I say, do you like this melody? Do you like this chord?
Cool. It's really cool.
It's really fun, and I feel like it's a bit of a community sort of developing. You know, people know each other and communicate, and it's really special. And there's one guy who's just there for comic relief. throwing out, which you usually have in writing sessions too, like even here in LA when I'm working for an artist or doing some kind of writing session, there's someone that's always just throwing out those joke innuendo lines. Like,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nice
Yeah.
to have someone in the stream that's doing that too.
That
Shout
would
out
be
to
my
Andrew.
drummer for us. My drummer's always the one throwing out the innuendo. What is it with
Yeah.
drummers? They're weirdos, all of them. They're very eccentric. But, well, do you have your guitar handy, Shelley?
My guitar, whatever do
It's
you
always within arm's reach, people.
whatever do you mean?
I'm thinking, since we talked a little bit about how you do the songwriting thing on the Saturdays,
Ooh.
is there one that you're pretty much completed that you might want to play for the folks?
Yeah, I mean they're all completed. That's the whole thing. We go.
I guess, yeah.
We do 90 minutes. That's it. We get it done. And sometimes it doesn't have a bridge or, whatever. It makes for creative forms sometimes because we're like, we just got to get it done. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I really like the last song that we did. Okay, let me see if I can remember it. It's hard though because, I'm like writing it in that short time, so I feel like it doesn't commit to memory in the same ways as other songs sometimes because it's
What do you think one that you committed to memory then?
like just any song.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. There was one we did last week that's really sweet. It's called Happy Song. See if I have my lyrics. I should.
That's what this is for me. All my lyrics go on this sucker.
I know. I still like writing it out, but the ability to just like.
Oh, I write first and then transfer.
No, I mean like because I do love writing out the lyric initially, but then on this you can have like, if you're stuck on lyric, you can have an option, and you can choose later. Whereas like if you're writing, you'd have to like, cross it out, or I don't know. I just feel like this one's a bit more malleable. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, let me see if I have the Happy
By the way,
Song.
Kristen, that's one of my favorites too, Sidelined. It's a very, very good song.
Thanks, guys. Where's the Happy Song?
Badger, don't be too upset. You are an eccentric person anyways. I didn't even know you were a drummer. Now I do. So, yeah, you're even more eccentric now.
All right. Sorry, guys. Okay, I've got the lyrics. This could be messy, but this is a song that we did the other day. No, you know what? It's
pick one you're
you threw me a curveball. I didn't know, so I'm just gonna play.
I didn't know I was going to be performing.
I know. I didn't know. No, but come check out the live streams. They're really fun. It's every second Saturday. At 1 p.m. But this is a song that I wrote around the time when I left my religion, and it's it was like an answer to a question that people were asking me at that time, where people were saying, "Oh, how do you know how to be a good person? Without God, or without the Bible or this stuff?" And so this was my answer. And I like to say a song's really a 4-minute uninterrupted opinion, which no one's going to give you in a conversation. They may give you in a song. My morality has nothing to do with the Bible or the verses of the Quran. My morality won't judge you by your spirituality, but by the things that you have done. My morality is not set into stone tablets who don't even tell you not to hurt children. My morality is not dictated by a deity. It's developed from empathy, dependence, and love. My morality accepts everybody. Sexuality is more concerned with inequality than validation from above. My morality is not set into stone tablets who don't even tell you that it's worthwhile to be good for being good's own sake, that not to think for yourself can be a deadly mistake. My morality is not recitable from memory. It's something inside of me, how I want to be. Treat others how I want them to treat me. Basically, not to hurt anybody. It abhors any brutality. It stems from our common humanity. And it's what my grandmother taught to me. And it's mine because I'm free.
That was awesome. That was awesome. That was really powerful too.
Thank you.
Wow, you almost made me cry. Yeah, and I'm right along listening to the words. I'm right there with that for sure. Anyway, we have come to the... Thanks. Oh, there we go. Everyone's giving you some kudos in the chat now.
Oh, cool.
But
thanks, everyone.
I basically do these for an hour. Now I do an after party. You're not obligated to take part in it, but I'm sure that some folks are going to want to say hello. So if you're willing to stick around for a little longer.
I probably have another 5 minutes. If that's okay. Because I have to.
Oh, do you? Okay. Well, all right then. I'm sorry, guys. We'll have to have you into an after party at a future date that I usually throw, because I always do them after I do my interviews.
Okay.
And if you have to take off, I don't want to keep you from doing that. So.
Well, I mean, I can pop in, for the start of the after party.
Okay, but basically what I do is I shut this one down and throw in a new link, and we can get into that. Okay.
All right. Awesome.
Well, Shelley, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for doing a little bit of a tune for us there. That was so fantastic. Thanks
so much for having me and letting me talk endlessly.
My pleasure. I've been really looking forward to this because you guys don't know this, but she was here and was going to do a show over on the island, and I was all ready to go over there, but everything you've ended up being a little sick, and canceling, and so the next time you're in town, we definitely have to get together, and do I think do a little duet or something. I was thinking we might do one here, but that's okay. Another time.
Another time. We can. That'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely I'll actually give you my cell number through the DMs, and next time you're in town, let me know, and we can work something up. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, again, big hugs, and thank you so much for doing this. This was fantastic. And thanks everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're going to jump into an after party right away. So if you're interested in coming and say hello to Shelley before she has to take off, just let me know. And through Twitter or Facebook, if you're on Facebook and you're not on Twitter, you know the routine. And anyways, like I always say at the end of these things, a reminder, guys, the links are below for Shelley. And also, if you dig what I do and you want to help the show, you can check out those links as well. Yeah, we've already got people like, yes. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. That's it. All right. Until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of these things, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.